I got up this morning to go to work. And I was like, I'm going to put on my Philly stuff. And then I went, can't. They're not in the playoffs. I have to wear the gear of the team that won last night. So, congratulations, Anaheim. But I got thinking about a few things today. And, I mean, I could do a live reaction. And I'm watching the Montreal Rangers game. Certainly, it's Montreal's game to win. I can't see anything happening to get the Rangers the win tonight. I could be wrong. Grabner scored a pretty goal, but I really think it's Montreal's game. So there was a question that came up today on Bob McCown, and it's an interesting point. And Bob, a lot of the times, he's old, he's got the sunglasses, he's kind of he's a lot like a Don Cherry type in how he announces things, but he's right about something. So he was talking about the ratings for hockey in the States and that they're down. And then the rest of the panel brings up streaming and websites and how the viewing public has changed and it's happening with everything. And then he brings up that NHL games nationally bring in like 300,000 viewers. Now, the States has 10 times the viewers that Canada does. So he says, all right, just imagine if hockey only generated 33,000 viewers in Canada. That would be disastrous. I would think even if it was a Stanley Cup final between two of the most southern teams, like let's say Florida and Anaheim played each other in the finals, you're going to get more than 30,000 Canadians watching that. And the ratings have been down in years where Canadian teams weren't in the playoffs. They mentioned how Canadian teams generate 60% of the revenues. They mentioned as well that despite the NHL seemingly putting all of its resources into the U.S., the game hasn't really grown in the last 20 years. And it hasn't. It's got fans in areas around the States, sure. But in terms of being part of the fabric of that country, the NHL is seen as being far beneath the NBA, the NFL, Major League Baseball. It's probably on par with Major League Soccer, which is why in previous videos, if I didn't mention MLS, people are like, well, MLS is a major league. In Canada, everything's hockey. This time of year, you're going to notice a lot of baseball stuff at sporting goods places. You know what else? Baseball stuff doesn't sell very well. Blue Jays sells great. I don't know why people buy Blue Jays crap. And seeing their start to the season, I'm like, yep. It's what happens when you downgrade your team in the offseason and then try to sell it as an upgrade. But I digress. Hockey is Canada. And it's hockey year-round up here. And in the States, it isn't. But because of the size of the population, because the U.S. is 10 times the size of Canada, you're able to fill more stadiums. You're able to justify having more franchises. It's 23 in the States and 7 in Canada. But then the question becomes, why isn't the game growing in the States? Why don't more Americans watch hockey than they do? And when I'm south of the border, within a half an hour's drive from here, and I'm wearing a jersey, and people are like, oh, I like that shirt. What's it for? And it's like, Ducks? Like, for some, okay, if they see this, the patches on the shoulders of this jersey, they're like, oh, Mighty Ducks, like the movie. They just see this, they're like, what is that? No matter where you go in Canada, people would know what this is. People would understand what this is. But in the States, it's not the same. And I think the point they were trying to make on Bob McCown's show today, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, is the NHL is spending a lot of money marketing to the States, marketing to American fans, and it doesn't seem like it's improved the NHL standing in the States. It hasn't improved ratings. I mean, we've seen expansion, now we're seeing expansion in Vegas, but You know, already there's people circling and saying, well, that won't work long term. And I don't have an answer for that. And even people who are supporting Vegas, you can't tell. You can't tell how a non-traditional market's going to or not going to support hockey. Certainly, if you look at the franchises that are currently in the NHL, and if you just look at what's going on with the playoffs right now, it's sort of weird. You know, Edmonton, Calgary, you got 5 Canadian teams on here. St. Louis is definitely traditional. Minnesota's traditional. Chicago, yes. Columbus is it's a strange one because Columbus, in terms of attendance, struggles. And even this year when they did really, really well, the attendance kind of sketchy overall. Pittsburgh is a big hockey market. Washington, D.C. seems to be a big hockey market. There's a lot right now riding on the Capitals in terms of the fact that they might be Washington, D.C.'s best chance for a championship because the Washington Nationals aren't in that position. The Washington Wizards, not bloody likely. So it's up to the Capitals. The New York Rangers, of course, huge hockey market. Boston Bruins, of course. In California, it's kind of strange because San Jose, I would qualify as a key hockey market now. Anaheim, depends how good the team is. Definitely seems to depend how good the team is as to how the attendance is, which affects Canadian teams, but not as much. And again, you have a much larger population center for most, but in terms of a non-traditional team that's in the playoffs, you've got maybe Nashville, but Nashville's getting there too. So I guess, and when you look at the teams that missed the playoffs, Philly's key. Of course, there's other Canadian teams in here. Colorado is big. Detroit's huge for the NHL. The Islanders potentially are. The Kings are, because it's the Kings. It's LA. It's Los Angeles. So then the question became one of, has Gary Bettman failed? I think where the NHL fails, and I think the NHL fails in the States, is that you have this league that plays a game that's cold weather, and that's immediately going to be of very little interest to a lot of people in the States who don't go ice skating as regularly as we do. You go into any town in Canada, you will find an ice rink. You'll find it readily. You'll find signs taking you to it in most cases. Oh, welcome to town. Did you want to go skating? There's ice rinks here. There's numerous. It's just, it's in our culture. It's part of what Canada is. And in the States, it's different. When we went to a rink in Bellingham, you would not have known there was a rink in that building. We went in the building and weren't sure where the rink was at first.
And it was horrible.
And the rink was bad.
Worst
and
ice ever.
The ice was bad, and then they decided to go with dark lighting. And I'm like, wait a minute, the ice is crap, and now you're turning the lights out? No, please don't. You can try one or the other, but don't do both. So the NHL, I think, if they wanted to fix this, I think it's simple. They need to market their stars outside of hockey. They need to basically find a way to get into NFL, Major League Baseball, get into that fan base. Huge. Monday Night Football is huge. And market their stars. And market these players, because when you look at what Rogers gave for the broadcasting rights of NHL, and then you look at what the NBC network is paying for basically the same thing in the States. Fox Sports has a lot of broadcasts too. But when you look at what those networks are paying, it's not the same. And yet the States has 10 times population. I guess the thing is, the league that produced this result this year, this is some of the most exciting hockey I've ever seen. But you have to market your stars. When the NBA was mired in the muck in the mid-'80s, it was Magic Johnson versus Larry Bird that got him out of it. I didn't watch basketball. I wasn't a basketball fan. But Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were all over the television. And I picked a side because everybody did. So I went with Larry Bird because the Celtics usually lost. And I love my underdogs. So I went with the Boston Celtics over the LA Lakers. And I didn't like the yellow and purple Lakers and the tight shorts. Back in the 80s, they were tight shorts. It was just wrong. And, I liked Kevin McHale. I liked Robert Parrish. I liked Larry Bird. I liked everything that the Celtics were and that the Lakers weren't. And that's how they sold the league. And I don't know. I mean, Sidney Crosby is a national hero in Canada. And outside of hardcore hockey fans in the States, I don't know that you're going to get much of a reaction for Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, and definitely when you get into the secondary stars, so like a Jonathan Taves or Phil Kessel, even who's American, it's not the same. And also, if you look at the Stanley Cup here, okay, now they pointed out that when you have a traditional market like a Chicago and a Stanley Cup final, your ratings go up. Well, of course, because fans in Chicago are watching. What they basically said, and this isn't to upset fans in any of these markets. I'm talking to you guys because we're hockey fans. The trick is, for football and baseball, you don't have to be in a football, baseball, major league market to be a fan of the sport. In hockey, it's a regional sport. There are regions of the States where it's very big and everybody watches it. And hockey is not that national sport that it is in Canada. So, like, if you go to Saskatchewan, it's not like you're in an area where people aren't still talking about hockey and watching hockey at night. It's still a part of the conversation. Whereas in the States, it's not the same thing. And the NHL spent a lot of money. So I'm not sure that after 20 plus years of spending money on growing the game in the States, that it's necessarily grown very much, if at all. The game in the States is not in dire need or anything. There's certainly lots of markets. My point is this: if you actually got Americans to care on the same level as Canadians, you not only have 32 teams, you have 32 really strong franchises that are making a ton of cash. The players make a lot more money. You're going to sell a lot more merchandise. Just the jerseys alone. I can't compare anything with hockey jerseys because football jerseys are just t-shirts. Baseball jerseys are button-up t-shirts. And, yeah, I don't find either of them as cool as... And Lakers jerseys are muscle shirts that are kind of shiny. And I don't buy any of those. I don't just buy these because I only watch hockey. I watch baseball and I watch football. Their jerseys aren't worth it. I don't see the creativity with jerseys and other sports. There's so many things you could market the NHL with. You have fantastic designs, fantastic logos, strong team. How do I put this? Strong team histories, and strong markets. Like I said, all of these are strong hockey markets. Many of them are American. And rather than tuning out on like a Montreal Rangers, this should be a matter of Americans tuning in and saying, yeah, we're not going to let Montreal come down here and beat us. Those French-Canadian teams aren't going to beat us. Because technically Ottawa's half French-Canadian. So, half. It's a strange thing because they've fought so hard for so long, and I really don't know how much inroads the NHL's made in the States. So, here's my question to you. You're a fan of hockey. How do you get to those other markets? And do you try? This is where the question also becomes, so hockey hasn't become as big in the States as was expected after the Miracle on Ice, and it's not. Miracle on Ice was this huge thing, and they American channels embraced it, and every time there was a guy on the ice who was on that 1980 USA team, it was talked about a lot, whether it was Rob McClanahan, Mike Ramsey, whoever was on that team, Jim Craig. Every time they were, Olympic hero, Olympic gold medalist, and it didn't translate. And then when the Americans went to Salt Lake, and they performed very, very well, and they had that big game with the Canadians, and everything was exciting, it still didn't seem to carry over. Hockey at the Olympic level, sure, it'll get the Americans' attention because there's a medal on the line, and it's an all-star game. But regular NHL, Not as much. So my question to you guys is, how do you fix that? Or do you just say, you know what, we make 60% of our revenues off 7 teams in Canada. Why don't we put more teams in Canada? Let's figure out a way to get a team into Hamilton. Let's figure out a way to get a team into Quebec City and make it work. Because even with the exchange rate, most of our revenues are still coming from Canada. That seems like the sane thing to do. Just put more teams in Canada since you make more money there anyways. But this is the NHL. They don't always go the same route. Let me know what you guys think. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and I'll talk to you all again soon.